r/AskReddit. What is the most terrifying thing you've ever experienced while home alone? This happened to me a couple of years ago. I have also lived on my own a long time, so do not get sacred easily. I had just finished reading in bed, and I turned my lamp off and settled down to go to sleep and hugged my cat up close to me. This would be about 1:30 in the morning. I closed my eyes and I heard a voice say meow, like imitating a cat. My window was open, so either it was just someone being weird outside. I opened my eyes, and in the middle of my bedroom was a small boy wearing a red jumper waving his arm above his head. I leapt up like a goddamn ninja and put the light on, and my heart was going mad. Now, nothing paranormal has happened in this house ever in the entire time I have lived here. I spent the whole night totally freaked out, only getting a bit of sleep when it started to get light outside. My friends thought this was hilarious when I told them. I was saying there is no way I'm living in a haunted house, and started googling cleansing, exorcists and whatnot. The next few nights other weird stuff started happening. I started sleeping with a T.V on, and as soon as I tried to get any sleep, I would hear freaky voices coming from it, or I would notice shadows dip by the side of my bed. It was dreadful. I actually resorted to saying out loud, "I'm really tired, so if you could not haunt me for one night I would be really grateful." I had never really believed in any of this sort of stuff before, so it was like an entire paradigm shift for me. Anyway, I was going on about this to my friends at work, and one of them asked if I was on drugs. Well, funnily enough, I had just started taking this new tablet Montelukast for my asthma. When I got home, read the side effects, a rare one being hallucinations. Stop taking them, no more hauntings. TL, Dr. Drugs made me see ghosts. Update, thanks everyone for all your replies. I woke up to so many notifications on my phone. I did some research myself after I realized what was happening, and I found out that it was prescribed mainly to children and to those who struggle with taking an inhaler, here in the UK at least. My asthma was going through a bad patch, so they tried a few different meds on me. I remember thinking, if you were a little kid and started seeing stuff like that every night and had no idea that it was the tablets causing it, the thought doesn't bear thinking about. Also, nothing has ever happened in my house since then. Everything is completely normal, and I now can sleep with the lights off like a proper adult. My BF worked away from home a lot, and I always struggled to sleep on the first night he was away. On this occasion I was woken by the sound of a man shouting, and then someone banging on wood or a front door. I jumped up and looked out my bedroom window, just in time to see a man dressed all in black walking through our garden towards the house. I ran to the front of the house to look out of the front window and make sure he kept going. He did, but he met up with another man dressed in black walking towards my house. I was terrified and called the police. They arrived in a matter of minutes and checked out the back garden, but they were gone. Turned out a neighbor had caught them both trying to steal his car, and one had escaped through the gardens while the other had run through the roads, and they had met up outside my house. I didn't sleep at all that night, and my brother came to stay the next night. I'm so glad I live in an apartment now, much more security. I have kinda similar story. I was maybe 9 years old by myself at home. My grandmother had chickens. They usually ran around outside but always stayed in our yard. So I started hearing loud noises coming from them outside. The rooster was louder than normal and lots of wing clapping. So I look outside and see two men I've never seen before chasing the chickens. They were trying to steal them. It was more funny to me than scary. They eventually caught a couple and took them. This was in my home country Ukraine, and we didn't have cell phones or even landlines. So I couldn't do anything but wait for my grandmother to come home. You know those tongs in the kitchen that have a spring but a latch to keep them together? I had a pair of those, and I put the latch on and put them down on the counter. I went away for a bit and came back, and then they jumped off the counter at me. Biggest jump scare of my life. The latch had come undone and they sprung open. But in the millisecond, when inanimate objects suddenly come to life and jump at you, you don't realize this and totally freak out. I work from home, so I'm home alone a lot. One day I was working, and out of the corner of my eye I noticed some movement in my backyard. There was a man jumping over my fence into my backyard. Panicked, I call my then boyfriend now fiancé and tell him what is happening. While I'm on the phone with him, I get a knock at my front door. It's a woman from CenturyLink informing me that technicians will need access to my backyard. I tell her someone just jumped over my fence, so I think they are already there. Way to give me a heart attack, CenturyLink. One night I was home alone grillin' and chillin', drinking beer and smoking dope, about half lit, wearing my hoe clothes. It was a great time. As soon as I sat down to eat, I heard a woman yelling for help and pounding on doors. Once I realized she wasn't a threat to me, I sprinted up the road to find her. She was covered in blood and told me her husband was trapped in the truck he flipped. She kept trying to get me to help her pull him out of the truck, and I said, "Lady, I know this is an emergency, but I ain't no EMT." The worst part was I live in the woods with no cell service, but luckily I was able to get to my landlord's attention, so he could call 911 from the landline. I was up until 3 AM that night, because I could not wind down after the fact. Everyone survived and the guy got out on his own, but it was the scariest night of my life. I was living alone after my ex-husband moved out, and the creepy guy across the street, who was 20 years older and enjoyed drugs, kept trying to date me. He would harass me when I left my house or arrived home and would threaten to rape me. I had just started dating my current BF, and he helped hang up motion detecting lights outside. I started carrying pepper spray and leaving the alarm on whenever I was home. My BF and I also agreed that if I didn't text him for a certain period of time and he couldn't get a hold of me, that he'd go to my house and check on things. I also set him on my work calendar just in case. It got so scary that my BF actually moved in a lot sooner than we planned because I felt so unsafe. After creepy guy watched my BF move in and saw him puttering around with project cars in the driveway, he stopped harassing me and moved away a few months later. I've never felt so unsafe in my own home, wondering if the outside lights were on because of the neighbor's cat or because creepy guy was trying to break in. I feel unsafe in my own home right now. Not because of a creepy dude trying to date me, but because of a creepy woman trying to be my friend. She stole my cat for a week. What the actual fuck? And ever since I got my cat back, someone else brought it back, but I know she had it. She's been weirdly trying to be my friend, getting her kids to sit outside my windows and knocking on my door. We had each other's phone numbers, but never really spoke, and I had to block her number because she keeps messaging asking about my cat and trying to call me. Nothing quite that terrifying yet, PLSH well. But once I left all the bathroom windows open wide by mistake when it was very windy, and I woke up in the middle of the night to the bathroom door slamming open and shut, and felt like I was gonna piss myself with fright. I stayed in bed like I was paralyzed, and I could feel this cool breeze coming into my room, all the cold air being let in. Lol. I prayed to whoever above to remove who or whatever it was from my home and asked for my life to be spared. Yes, I'm a fucking pussy, y'all. I got under the covers and called my aunt and asked her to come over as she had a spare key, and she did. Her and her husband came with weapons and charged upstairs into the bathroom. No fear, they realized it was the wind pushing the door around. I still stayed with her that night. Lol. Vertical bar. Nothing too crazy but startling. 2 scenarios. Ant lady. So, my wife and I lived in apartment buildings owned by our university. We complained to get rid of our ant invasion. I'm a gamer and have some good noise cancelling headphones. This lady comes into our apartment, probably announces herself IDK. I'm chilling playing games and I hear a noise in the bathroom. My wife shouldn't be home for a few hours. I almost end up clobbering that poor woman. / police response to stabbing. That day was Friday, game night. Just moved into our new apartment, so none of our friends know where we live currently. Wife goes out to hang out with friends. It's 12 AM. I hear a knock on our door. It's a man's voice. Now this is weird for several reasons. No one knows where we live, and a man knocking at 12 AM. Nah, huge red flags. I tell him give me a minute. I go grab the biggest knife I could. As I open the door, I hide the knife behind the thigh furthest from him. It's a police officer, and he's responding to someone in the neighborhood who claimed they got stabbed. I'm literally holding a fucking knife. Lucky I hid the knife behind me, chatted a bit and he left. Could have been bad. I get auditory hallucinations when I'm tired. That's brought on by my anxiety. The one that caused the worst anxiety attack I'd had in months was, just as I was drifting off to sleep, a guy yelled "hey" right into my ear and I launched myself out of bed before realizing what had happened. This happens to me a lot, especially when I'm up late producing music. With my headphones on and my track playing, I can occasionally hear what I believe to be voices. It's very odd. Sometimes it sounds like a television in the distance, but I'll always turn all electronics off when I'm producing to avoid static and miscellaneous feedback. So this is interesting to read. It does happen sometimes when I'm heading to bed too. I wonder if I get them too.